I guess it was about 8.5 years ago, I bought a new, at the time, Crosman 2260, and that was when they had just reintroduced it. In fact, I got an email from them when they reintroduced it as a custom shop item, and so I went ahead and pre-ordered one before they were even available, and got it. And what that is it's related to the 2240 air pistol, CO2 pistol, and the 2250, what's called a Ratcatcher, which is a carbine, and then the 2260 is the woodstock rifle version of the same thing, same inner workings and everything. And the thing about the 2260 is it has a longer air tube than the rest of them. The 2240 pistol has the shortest air tube, and it only comes to about right there. Has a 7-inch barrel, and then the 2250 is, you know, mid-length. The 2260, you can see this is actually the 2260 tube. And, see, it says 2260 on it, but the CO2 cartridge only came to about right there, and so somewhere along in there. And so what it had was the screw-on plug here had a long rod that would press against the CO2 cartridge, so all that space was wasted. And I got a PCP adapter tube, which is this, and what that does is it screws in place of the cap, the end cap that holds the CO2 cartridge in, and replaces the cartridge. So it's got, this tube is, you can see it's the same outside diameter as the air tube outside. And inside it's about the same diameter as a CO2 cartridge, and then it extends all the way down to the valve, and the end of it has a nipple on it that resembles the CO2 cartridge. So, and it's got a fill valve there, and so what it allows you to do is replace the CO2 cartridge with this by just screwing it in, and then you can fill it with either bulk CO2 or with high pressure air. And if that's all you're going to do, you have to keep the pressure down to less than about, say, 1500 psi, because CO2 in hot weather can go to 1500 or above, but keeping it below 1500 keeps it safe for use. And being larger diameter, you know, it gives you more shots per fill, and it's of course cheaper than using the CO2 cartridges, which cost about, last time I checked, about 50 cents each if you buy them in bulk. And even bulk fill CO2 is a lot cheaper than that. But if you have a high pressure air pump like the Benjamin, or like what I have, the Hill pump, then once you purchase that, the air, the high pressure air, is actually free. You just pump it up. And so I actually went ahead and took the valve out. I replaced the original plastic breech with a steel breech, which is available from Crosman, and some of their air guns come with it. But the ones that don't, you can generally replace if it's of this design anyway. And so I did that, and I took the valve out and modified it for greater volume and greater performance. And when I put it back in, then I threaded and anchored it with set screws to make it stand up to higher pressure. So I can actually pump this up to for higher velocities. So I can pump it up to higher pressures, up to, the manufacturer of this thing says 3,000 psi, and I found that anywhere around, say, 1,800 to 2,300 works best for me for this. And so I had that for quite a while. It was accurate, and it had the 24-inch barrel, and it was great. I also built a power adjuster for the back here, which is just means I threaded it for that bolt, so I can adjust the spring tension, striker spring. And but what I ended up doing then, I bought a 2250. Wasn't actually called a 2250 because it came from the Crosman custom shop, who referred to it as a 2400 in the custom shop iteration, but it's the same thing as the 2250 that they used to sell, also known as the Ratcatcher. And I had that for a while, and I bought one of these things for it too, which is shorter. But eventually what I did, and my 2260, by the way, I was getting, with the Crosman 14.3 grain Premier hollow point pellets, I was getting right at 900 feet per second or a little bit better. Or with the 18 grain JSBs, I was getting about 850 or a little better. So that's pretty serious power from a 22 caliber air rifle. And I think I was getting about a dozen shots. So what I eventually ended up doing, though, was I just bought a Discovery air tube and the Discovery valve and the associated parts, and finished converting my 2260 completely over to a Discovery, because the Discovery is just a modified 2260 with an PCP air tube. So I did that, and so I had the 2260 tube left over, and I used the original 2260 24-inch barrel when I rebuilt it as a Discovery. And so what I did was I took my 2400 Ratcatcher, and I think that's an 18-inch barrel if I remember right. And so I took that, and of course the lower end, the foregrip, the buttstock and everything from the Ratcatcher, and put those on the 2260 tube. So this is now, that's why I call it my 2260 Ratcatcher. And I went ahead and used the same PCP tube in it. So it's, and the same valve and everything, so it still does about the same power, maybe slightly less because of the shorter barrel, but it still does quite well. And let's see, I don't have a pellet in it, but and I tell you what, it'll hold pressure. I had not fired it in, I don't know, several months, but I had aired it up and it was still holding pressure, so it doesn't leak down, and very reliable. And so just today I put this scope on it, and I'm going to go up to the range and sight that in. Okay, so this is just about 10 yards. hold that one. I really don't have a very good rest here. I'm going to have to improve that. But I'm just sighting in anyway, or checking the sight in. Let's try another. Okay, yeah, I'm going to have to move it left. Does seem to be shooting a reasonable groove, though. Yeah, the first one was right on the bullseye, and the next three were clustered in the same spot. So I guess I'm going to have to move it to the left a little bit. I had just adjusted the scope, so maybe it moved a little bit after I shot it. But it seems to be holding a reasonable group anyway, preliminary. So I'm certainly going to do some more testing with that and try to get it spot on. But it seems to be working okay. So if you like this type of content, please check out my Patreon page, which you will see on the next frame. Thank you for watching.